and welcome once again to another episode of the HoriZone Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald, and you can find me on Twitter at Bob McDonald, and with me is my co-host, Jimmy Lemke.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Are you enjoying your listening?
And Jimmy's on Twitter at PantherU, and you can follow the podcast on Twitter as well at HoriZoneRT. And good news, Jimmy, more schools started winning Division I games this week. So
yeah, everybody?
Almost everybody.
No.
We'll get to your sad situation soon enough, but I did want to get. The one thing I did want to get into is the fact that IUPUI had a pretty big win this week, and I guess the question that I have is, I know we've talked many times about IUPUI, and why. I guess we can stop talking crap about them now because they beat Boston College this week.
Well, let me be perfectly clear. Boston College sucks.
Yes, it does. Being
in the ACC is not some automatic. Your team is just fantastic. My team, Milwaukee, is pretty bad, and we had Boston College whooped up in the first half,
and then they whooped up on you, and you lost by 20.
Well, sure, that's because my team's really bad, sub 300 bad, but IUPUI is not that bad. But
no,
I don't think this is going to end up to be a top 100 win.
No, probably
Boston
not.
College probably going to fit in the 150 to 200 range. If the RPI is similar to the net is similar to what the RPI was, and that's just how it's going to be. So if Boston College, don't get me wrong, it's awesome that you can go out of your gym and go beat a high major. That is good. It's always good to win games against high majors. But I don't think anybody from the East Coast is going to look up and say, you know what, the HoriZone League's really good. Boston College lost a game to that IUPUI team. Nobody. That's not going to be a blip on the radar. If they had beaten Virginia, that we would be talking about something. If they had beaten even Syracuse, we'd be talking about something. But we're not talking about the cream of the crop or even the cream of the middle of the crop in the ACC. We're talking about one of the worst teams. I'm not trying to take away IUPUI's thunder here. I'm really not. I just want people to temper their enthusiasm. Yeah, we need to win games, but we need to win. We need to I would be a lot more excited if IUPUI knocked off one of the top teams in the MVC. Or if they knocked off one of the best teams in the MAC or the Atlantic 10, beating a terrible team in a great conference doesn't mean that your team's ready. IUPUI is they're better than us for sure, and hopefully this means that they got a good experience to go into the HoriZone League play, but. Let's be perfectly clear here. Boston College is not some, winner of a basketball program. It's been a long time since Jared Dudley and Sean Marshall have left college. They're not the program they used to be. In fact, I'm sure if hindsight were hindsight's 2020. I'm sure if you could go back in time, I'm sure the ACC would have rather taken Xavier or somebody else instead of Boston College. Wouldn't you? Just go back in time. Look at what they've done, where they're doing. They don't have they don't have there's no pedigree there anymore. It's just a program that's completely lost its way, and that's not a deterrent on IUPUI. It's good. It's hard to win road. We covered this last week. It's hard to win road games in college basketball. But you I don't want Horizon League fans to get in this mode where we're celebrating wins over bad teams in better conferences, because that's a slippery slope. It's a real slippery slope. We're only a few steps away from getting excited about, Youngstown beating Kent State if Kent State's like a middle of the pack team in the MAC, just because it's a better conference. You have to hold your conference to a higher standard, and beating Boston College, good. It's good for them. Let's get to winning some games, because like you said, this week the conference started to finally win some Division I games. We're a long way from being able to celebrate a marginal victory.
And that's kind of where I'm coming from on that. I agree with the fact that Boston College is not a great program. If I had an equivalent program at one of the other high major schools, I would probably equate them to maybe DePaul, probably.
Sure.
Yes, because DePaul, who I know at least 2 Horizon League teams will be playing this season, and I openly question why they're in the Big East and have for many, many years. But there they are still. I don't know. But I think what it comes down to is the fact that you have for me it's about progress, and the progress is it's not necessarily about the team that they're playing. I mean, yes, it's an ACT team, but it is Boston College. But it's all about, to me at least, it's all about the fact that they went on the road in I guess, a relatively hostile environment. I don't know what Boston College's home court is like, but they went into a relatively hostile environment and they came out winning. And for the Horizon League, especially in the first week of the year, that has not been the case. It's been kind of tough sledding for them. So, for me, any little bit helps. And so I don't consider that, while, you may not consider a win against a Boston College team that may or may not, probably will finish at the bottom half of the ACC, I don't consider it a small deal. I consider it a road win. I consider it a road win against the power. I consider it a road win, and that's something that this conference needs desperately. And so this conference needs desperately throughout the rest of the non-conference slate. And they're not getting it from everywhere, but they are going to get it. But anytime they do get it, it is very, very important.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
So that's why you have to, and you're looking, and I'm looking at it and I'm seeing, okay, you're still seeing, or even the neutral court, because obviously we're in exempt tournament land right now. So, for example, you got Green Bay. They went out to Cheney, Washington, and they're playing in that tournament out there. And wouldn't you know, they've already notched 2 wins already. One against Eastern Washington and one against who the heck did they play yesterday? One against Morehead State. Are these what kind of teams are these? I don't know. But the important thing is they went in there and they won they won those games. And I think in order for the Horizon League to do better, it's got to get those road wins. Yeah. No matter what the team is, no matter who they play, you got to get the road wins. Period. So
I'll agree with that. Sure, absolutely.
So that's a huge thing, and it's going to be tough sledding because you saw on Friday, you saw on Friday where Oakland goes over to UNLV and they lose. IUPUI goes into Richmond and loses. Milwaukee goes in Cincinnati and loses by less than I thought you would be by, but still, I mean,
losing by 11 is practically like hanging a banner for this team this season.
And it's against a Cincinnati team that's not all that bad either. So,
right.
So they're a little higher up on the food chain. But
it's an odd team for sure. We're leaving, we're not like a good team. The team's 0-4. They're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the Horizon League, but there's talent. There's definitely talent. That Darius Roy kid is just, he's phenomenal. Darius Roy's good. I really like this DeAndre Abrams got talent. There's some Bobby Arthur Williams, pretty talented. I like this Amir Allen kid. He seems to have stretches where he can really, play good, play solid basketball, and really bang down low, which is something that most of the team, definitely Vance Johnson, has problems doing. So I see things that are positive,
sure.
But it's a very long way from them being able to put it all together. So, yeah, I'd love to see it, but it's going to be a while.
Now, when you say, well, let me ask you this: since we brought up Milwaukee, the Panthers are 0-4 now.
Yeah.
Is it too early to kind of you say it's going to be a while for these guys to kind of get it together? Are you talking about later on in the season? Or are you talking about next year? Is it too early to kind of write them off completely and think, okay, they're going to be one of the ninth or 10th place teams, and they won't even get a sniff of the conference tournament?
I think they'll win 4 or 5 Horizon League games, but I don't think it'll be enough to really move the needle. And it's going to be real hard to really say this team's going to be in a position to make noise. The Horizon League kind of shutting out all of the the bottom 2 teams out of the conference tournaments really kind of it's not a way to build your conference.
As we've already talked about multiple times, that it's not.
Youngstown's been in a spot in the last entire time they've been in the conference where they're a program that is almost always on the bottom half of the conference, usually in the bottom 3. And if we had this, you're not even in the conference tournament by being one of the bottom 2 teams for the last 19 years, Youngstown State would be looking at, only being in the conference tournament 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to build a program when you can't get that postseason experience. Mm-hmm. Meaning Youngstown can't get into the, Youngstown's not getting the postseason tournament experience of the Horizon League tournament, of that winner go home thing. And yeah, they didn't win a lot of games when they were in the conference tournament, but, before the switch to Detroit.
And and truth be told, that's a team as inexperienced playing together as it is, because they got a bunch of new faces on there. Plus, their primary scorers are 2 sophomores. That's a team that's a team that would need that tournament experience. And
right.
Not to say that they wouldn't make it this year. I don't think they're in as bad a position this year as everybody thinks they are. Although they did get around to winning a Division I game finally. So, congratulations to them. I don't think they're anywhere. I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as, say, Detroit. I don't think, given kind of early on what's going on with Milwaukee. I'm sorry to say, I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as Milwaukee this year, even.
No.
But to your point, that if you have one of those, to your point, if you have a team like that, potentially, or even, again, using a more Youngstown State that's had this issue for many years. Detroit, who is going to go through it, at least has gone through it already a couple years already, and potentially is going to go through it this year, and maybe even next year. I'm not sure about next year, though. The shutdown outlet, and I guess the other question that I have, too, is, and maybe we can probably shelve this for another episode, but is this a permanent solution? Is this a permanent thing that they're doing, or is this a thing that they just threw together because of the way that how they weren't able to get games at Little Caesars Arena? I guess that's my question. Is this a format that just got thrown together? And I think it was, personally. I
think John LeCrone is a guy who kind of just is a little bit of. He's got a little bit of Mao. It's constant revolution that he's looking for. Mm-hmm. He's always trying to figure out the next way to move the needle, and the problem is that it's just not. It's not It didn't need to be moved 5 moves ago. So
no. It seems like he's trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist.
Or I think you hit the nail on the head, is that they probably couldn't get the dates at Little Caesars Arena, and then to save face, they're like, oh, we'll play the first round here, and then afterwards we're going to go to the LCA.
Well, see, that's the other question that I have, because in years past, that first round game was at campus sites, but then they had to double bye even still. So I don't know. It's like I said, we'll probably beat this one to death for many for many episodes in the future. And so, which would bring, now since we talked about the bottom of the conference, I want to talk a little bit about the top of the conference. I know Wright State kind of had a pretty, they lost by 19 to Murray State, but then they turned around and beat Toledo pretty handily. And personally, I think that Toledo's, we talked about games against, kind of the better mid-major teams, and I am of the impression that Toledo's probably one of the better teams in the MAC. And Wright State, and I actually listened to this game a little bit, Wright State looks like they have kind of a really good inside-out combination, just from listening to kind of how they move the ball. I mean, Jesus, and so efficient. I think the first half was, I think there were maybe only a handful of fouls got called in the first half. They were very efficient on offense and defense. Wright State was, and for them it was kind of, to me, it was kind of a good bounce back game for them. So I would think, I guess my question to you would be, with regards to Toledo, is that would you consider that kind of I know I consider them kind of a little higher up on the food chain in the MAC.
I do too.
So I consider I consider that a good win.
I do too.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is that Wright State seems to me like they've got they can kind of hit you from a few different angles.
Yes.
That Cole Gentry is a player.
Jesus. Yeah, he is.
He's absolutely a player. I think he had 25 against Toledo or something. I don't remember the final.
No, he had 30 against Toledo.
Oh, he hit the 30 mark. Wow.
He was playing his ass off against Toledo.
That's he a couple 30-point games.
Killing it. He was.
Yeah.
I mean, he was everywhere. He was slashing. He was hitting the threes. He was everywhere.
The one bit, some of the game, I've noticed that Loudon Love has really kind of blossomed into. I feel like Loudon Love's taken a big step forward this off season, heading in here. I'm just trying to find the stats from that game because I was listening to this.
So he got a double. So against Toledo, he got a double-double. He had a double. he scored 14 points, but he got 12 rebounds. And he was a beast inside. And so but having given our experience with Loudon Love last season, it's not much of a surprise to me. But if you got a combination of Loudon Love and Cole Gentry on those, and then let's also not Bill Wampler. I'm sure I'm butchering his name.
Billy Wampler. That's the right way to pronounce it, and he's a heck of a shooter. I mean, you have three kinds of heat right there.
I know.
I think they're bringing Hughes off the bench.
No, they had him starting against Toledo.
They had him starting against Toledo? Okay. I thought they were bringing Hughes off the bench, but that's just...
They might have just did that this game, but they definitely did last. But for the Toledo game, definitely.
He gives you another ball handler. That's what you get out of him.
Yeah.
If you're looking at high major games that are winnable, Wright State's playing Penn State this week. I'm pretty sure. I think that's this week or next week.
That I believe is. Hold on a second. Let me. Yeah, that's on Tuesday. Actually, they're playing. That's one of those Cancun games. So yeah, that's the one. They're playing. And they're playing on the CBS Sports Network. So anybody who has that, have at it there. They're definitely playing that game. They're playing. They're playing in. What is it, the Cancun Classic or what? I can't remember. Cleveland State was in it a few years ago. I can't remember the name of it, though. But yeah, they played that game, and you're absolutely right. Penn State is a winnable game for Wright State. It really is. Penn State I would consider probably in the same league, unless something has changed considerably at Penn State. I consider Penn State kind of in the same league, maybe a tick better than Boston College. Not much, but a tick better. But I think it's definitely a winnable game for Wright State.
Yeah, I think the one thing you can really look at using Toledo as kind of a measuring stick is that Wright State beat them handily. I think it was about 10.
Absolutely.
They did beat Oakland. Toledo beat Oakland earlier.
They
in the
did,
year.
yeah.
I think it was like Oakland's home opener.
It was Oakland's home opener, and it was Oakland's home opener, and it was Oakland beating, and Toledo barely got out of there. I mean, I don't, again,
I think Oakland's suffering from another problem, a problem that they've had and kind of continue to have.
Mm-hmm.
Is I feel like they recruit strong individual talent, but
sure.
I feel like they never put it together. I feel like they put it together better than Youngstown does, and Youngstown's always been a program that's always been able to get strong individual talent.
Sure.
You can go back to Morris, to Humphrey, all those guys that Youngstown State has had over the years that have been stat sheet stuffers.
Damian Ergel, Kendrick Perry, all those guys.
And Oakland does that too. Oakland's got a lot of guys where they'll have a bunch of guys averaging double digits. They'll have guys that will average double doubles, and they're strong individual talent. But I just don't think they've got a team, and maybe that'll come over the season. But it's definitely something that hasn't come until up to now.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about up to now, like since they've been here. Mm-hmm. Greg Campy, I'm a huge Greg Campy fan. He's a great personality. He recruits fantastic. He's very savvy. I mean, you know that the Motor City Madness had his fingerprints all over it.
Of course.
But if I'm an Oakland fan, I'm wondering when are they going to put it all together? Are the mid majors have gotten ahead by getting these strong 4-year players, and it seems like Oakland always kind of is close but not quite there, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just they've got talent. They can win some games, and they have enough talent where they can be top 2 in the conference.
Yeah.
Or even win a regular season title or something. And it's just it's never enough to actually get the real work done to like be a strong team that can win in March. That's
always been a mystery to me with them, anyway, as well. I mean, I mean, you've seen the talent come out of Oakland. It's never. To me, it's always been one of those things where it's on paper they look awesome, but they've not gotten over that hump yet.
I mean, Milwaukee fans, like 80% of fans, I would say, probably would have been fine when Rob Jeter was fired. This isn't like to measure Robert, but Rob Jeter went to the tournament in 2014.
Yeah.
Rob Jeter went to the tournament in 2014. He won the regular season title tied with Butler and Cleveland State in 2011. He accomplished things, and Greg Campy to this point hasn't accomplished a whole lot in the conference, and we're up to this is like year 5 or 6 in the
year 5,
Horizon.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising.
A little bit, yeah, and it's kind of a mystery. Again, it's kind of a mystery to me too, because when you think of the better team, that upper half of the Horizon League, you always have Oakland in that upper echelon.
Right,
and it's just weird that that you speak of them about being a good, solid program, but at the same time, then you are a little confused that they haven't been to an NCAA tournament since they've been here. Or have they even been to an NIT since they've been here? I don't even remember.
I think didn't they win a regular season title a couple of years ago?
They might have. I don't remember. If they won a regular season title, they might have been a tie with a bunch of people. I don't know. I cannot remember to save my life.
16-17. Didn't they weren't they the 1 seed in 16-17?
They were possibly. I don't remember.
Here's Xavier Hill Mays.
Yeah.
6'7", 250. He's a big kid. He scored 30, 17, and 29. That's how much he scored in the 3 games, and they've lost all of them.
Huh.
17 is a heck of a game for somebody, and it's 12 less than his, middle of 3 games as far as his scoring.
You are correct. Incidentally, you are correct. By the way, they did make it to They did make it to the NIT in 17. You are correct.
And how did they do in the NIT in 2017?
They beat Clemson and lost to Richmond by 4 in the second round.
As soon as you said Clemson, I remembered. Yeah. So I mean, the not invited tournament. I mean, it's one of those things. Like it's cool when Valpo goes all the way to the finals.
Yeah.
It's cool when Valpo goes all the way to the finals, but people don't remember that we lost to Northwestern in 2011. Like, they don't remember that.
No.
Most of our fans don't remember that.
No. So, yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, in Oakland's case, this probably will be one of those years where it's not going to make a difference because nobody really knows what's going to come out of Oakland this year. I mean, for me, I think it's looking more and more, leaning more towards the rebuilding part of the I don't know spectrum. Because let's be honest, I don't think anybody really had an idea of where they were going to be in the conference. So
we're talking about how I mentioned several times that college basketball is cyclical, and one way that Oakland has always been able to maintain one of the top programs in the conference, as far like year to year, is that they've been able to just bring in a lot of individual talent, and sometimes that's a lot of fifth-year seniors or transfers that don't have a lot of time.
Yeah,
and that means they have to reset a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like Oakland's ever built. There's never a team one year where Oakland's got a starting 5 of 4 guys are seniors who played since they were freshmen. One guy's a junior who's played since he was a freshman. like they seem to get a lot of transfers, and I think that if I were to kind of diagnose Oakland's problems there, I would say that it's not like can't be coaching badly. I would say that it's Oakland in recruiting will go for the immediate talent to cover big spots in their team instead of putting players in and growing them to get there. And maybe we'll see some of that. Maybe we see some of that over time. But
that's interesting you mentioned. I mean, and maybe that, and I think of that, and I think of maybe him kind of being. I think of that approach being potentially, I mean, at least in Campy's mind, the answer to kind of the ever growing mid-major issue of kids moving around a lot.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that was his answer to maybe him heading it off at the pass of, all right, well, if we're all playing the transfer game now, I'm gonna play that game too. But to your point, and don't get me wrong, he's come up with some very, very good. He's come up with some excellent. He's come up with some great. He's had some great players come out of that approach.
Sure,
but to your
Damian
point,
Ergel's a great player. Quinn Humphrey's a great player.
Yeah,
those are Youngstown State guys who never really amounted to a whole lot as a team.
Yeah.
Oakland gets better players to plug holes, but they're plugging too many. It seems like every year they're plugging too many holes.
Yeah,
and it seems like every year instead of having somebody who can step in and be step in and be like a guy who's been there for a few years, who instead there's never that point where like a kid graduates. Like Kendrick Nunn gets replaced by a kid who's now like, their new stud's going to be this guy who's a fourth-year senior, and he was like sixth man last year. Like, and he's been there for 3 years. Like this, it always seems like they're turning it over to some hotshot freshmen.
Yeah.
Or they're turning it over to a second chance transfer, like Nunn, or they're sending it, putting it in the hands of some JUCO. It seems like they lack the core like. You want your best players to be kids that have been in your program, have been in your system since freshman year. You want people to grow through the system so that you're not spending the year, you're not spending the year trying to play catch up and build cohesion, because the teams that do have that, i.e. Wright State, look at what's different between those two teams. Wright State and Oakland are two teams that everybody's expecting to be at or near the top of the conference. Wright State, who do they have that's like a transfer? Billy Wampler, right?
Yeah.
So Billy Wampler is a transfer, but look at the rest of the program.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're built. I mean, they've Cole Gentry and Auden Love. You build that around them. I mean, and that's what Nagy has done over there. John Brandon is built it around Drew McDonald.
And Northern Kentucky would bring them up. Northern Kentucky as a program, what have they done? They have built on players that have been in their program forever. I mean, think of when they got to the tournament.
Yeah.
And Holland was a lifer NKU kid.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys were like most of their team. They did not plug in a bunch like JUCOs and transfers and stuff. They're fine. Take those players. But the problem is when you have a lot of major starting spots and rotational spots that have to get plugged in, because you don't know how kids are going to work together. You just don't know.
True.
You don't know if Kendrick Nunn is going to mesh with Jalen. You don't know. So
You don't.
Finding out in the middle of the season that maybe these two guys don't work terribly well together is counter to what you want out of your program.
Sure.
You want to build a program over time and then plug small holes here or there. In 2013-14, when we went to the tournament, it was Malcolm Moore. Malcolm Moore was a kid who didn't play like half the season after transferring as a fifth year senior transfer from UTEP. He was a small hole to plug. Everybody else was somebody who had spent a couple years or was in their second year. Like, it was just there wasn't a whole lot of need for somebody to step in and score 25 a game as a transfer. Yeah. And how is that person going to mesh? Because that person's going to need the ball in their hands a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, even if you do have the, it's interesting you mentioned that because, I have yet to see a Horizon League team that uses that blueprint of the JUCOs and the transfers have that kind of sustained success. I mean, you see them being very good in some instances, but you don't see them kind of making it being perennial NCAA tournament.
If you're just looking at individual talent, if you look at individual talent, is Oakland not the program in the last 5 years? And I'm including Valpo. Is Oakland not the program with the most individual talent over the last 5 years?
Oh, without question.
Without question. And by
the way, I just want to point out the fact that we keep talking about the guys that he keeps plugging in. The one guy who he never had to plug in is Kay Felder. He was there the entire time.
Yeah, and look what happened. And of who's the best player they've had? Kay Felder.
Yeah.
Who was their kid, man. He was
their kid, period.
And that was their best team was when he was here.
That's true.
You see what I'm talking about? He still was still some plugs, but it wasn't as much, and they were a better program. You got to grow your team. From a shortcut.
Yeah, well, from that standpoint, you see it happen in Northern Kentucky. You've seen it happen at Wright State, and in both instances. Over the last 2 years, in both instances, Northern Kentucky makes it to an NCAA tournament, Wright State makes it to an NCAA tournament, based upon the way they've approached it.
The way that Billy Donlin built the program, it was almost a seamless transition.
Yeah, exactly. It was
because they both build their programs the same way. And if you look at where South Dakota State was. Scott Nagy left him in a really good spot.
Oh, better believe it.
Or TJ can just walk in and he's got a dog.
Isn't Mike Dom Nagy's recruit?
I believe so.
Yeah, see, there you go. Proof right there. So that's the guy. He got that guy, but then he got Mike Dom. He got Mike Dom at South Dakota State. He does the same thing at Wright State with Loudon Love. I mean, it's not a mystery. It's the proof is there, and the results are there in that particular case. So with all the rest of
results, I'm going to be watching closely on Tuesday night. See if they can pull it out at Penn State.
That one's going to be the game that I think we're all going to be watching. Really, unless of course you don't have CBS Sports Network, and to that I say I'm sorry about your bad luck.
Oh yeah. So I was to just wrap up, kind of where we kind of wrap up the podcast. I will say that if I had to pick a team to win the Horizon League, this year, I was in Wright State before, and man, I really feel like that has been, strength. I've got nothing but strength in that belief over the past couple weeks. I think that is a team to be reckoned with. I think Scott Nagy is going to be I think Scott Nagy's going to be the guy that takes him to a Sweet 16. I don't think it's this year, but he is building that program in spite of the Horizon League being a team that is not as, being a conference that's, kind of falling apart. Wright State trucks along. Scott Nagy's got a program. He's building it. So
yeah.
I look forward to that continued growth of that place.
I am, and from a conference standpoint, it's sorely needed, and we need more programs like that. We already have Wright State. We already have Wright State in Northern Kentucky. We need a few more of that for them like that. We do. It's the truth. Which other teams step up in that model remains to be seen. But for right now, I think the big test for them is going to be Penn State. I'm not as high on Wright State as you might be. Maybe that's only because of the fact that only because of the Murray State loss. I'm a little higher up on Northern Kentucky right now.
Team.
So I don't. So it's one of those things.
Good teams can lose bad games.
It's true.
Murray State is a good basketball team.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, without a doubt.
That Morant kid is really, really good.
Yeah, one of the best in the country.
That's the freshman or sophomore. I can't even. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think he tore Wright State up. And at this point, that's why I say they're going to get torn up. But they're gonna get to a Sweet 16. I think under Nagy, but it's not going to be this year.
No.
They'll find that player, and back to my point about building a program. That player probably already on the team.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Probably just a freshman or sophomore who may or may not be playing much, who's just learning as he goes. And one day you're going to wake up at Wright State, and this kid's going to be surprisingly good.
And he'll be surprisingly good, and we'll sit over here and say, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah, right.
All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast here. You can obviously find all episodes of the HoriZone Roundtable on sportshacks.com, HAX.com. And, of course, you can find the HoriZone Roundtable on every, wherever you find podcasts, including Spotify. And, oh, by the way, Jimmy, we are now on iHeartRadio. So, if you use that iHeartRadio app, we're on there now. And of course, my favorite, my go-to, the Amazon Echo or Amazon Echo and the Google Home devices. You can just say "Play HoriZone Roundtable Podcast." And by the way, if you're doing this on a speaker right now and you have an Alexa over there, it's been like, "Oops." So my bad.
Alexa, shut off.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I said, "Hey Alexa, shut off." Just to see if I can turn off somebody's Alexa as they're listening.
All right, and just so you all, and also just a programming note, we will not be recording next week, so because Jimmy and I are going to be enjoying our Thanksgiving, so we'll be back.
Thanksgiving, everybody, and if
yes,
you don't
absolutely.
have a good Thanksgiving, try harder next year.
Yes,
just be better.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. So yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back week after next. So thank you all for listening.
Good night and better tomorrows.